Hello, my fellow audience. I'm willing to bet that the majority of you guys know about professional wrestling. I can almost guarantee that at least one person here was a fan once in a lifetime. In fact, the news website The Gallup says that 2 out of 10 Americans are professional wrestling fans. So in my speech today, I will be speaking about the history of professional wrestling. At the end of the speech, you guys will be more informed about professional wrestling than you ever thought you would in your entire life. I'll be talking about the Sideshow Carnival origins of the sport, today's national wrestling organizations and the precedents, and last and certainly not least, today's local professional wrestling organizations. After the Civil War, Carnival started to present professional wrestling. During these shows, wrestlers would sometimes challenge the crowd to an open challenge for gambling purposes. In the early 1920s, pro wrestling really made a name for itself as it started to produce its own trading cards and offer training programs to some high schools and colleges. During the 1920s, wrestling promoters really cranked it up a notch in the sense of entertainment by staging the matches. The first wrestling TV show ever filmed and released was in 1942 in a New York studio. In 1947, the first wrestling TV series, however, was released in a local LA TV studio. 5 years later, pro wrestling could be promoted and viewed anywhere in the US on TV. In 1948, the first wrestling company outside of the carnivals was National Wrestling Alliance, the NWA, and was founded by Sam Muchnick. Muchnick had a vision to create a pro wrestling company and make it go worldwide. He started off by negotiating with the carnies and having them compete in the professional wrestling organization in place of the carnival shows. Then, in 1982, Vincent Kennedy McMahon Jr. bought the Worldwide Wrestling Federation, WWF, which was founded in 1953 from his dad, and created the World Wrestling Federation, WWF, and renamed it eventually to be World Wrestling Entertainment, WWE. This purchase brought profound changes to professional wrestling, simultaneously with the purchase McMahon signed with cable TV deals, which brought professional wrestling to a nationwide audience. Today, the WWE is the most dominant professional wrestling company. Let's dive a bit deeper into the history of WWE. The WWE's roots can be traced back to January 7th, 1953, when a boxing promoter named Roderick James McMahon Sr. ran his first professional wrestling show under the company Capital Wrestling Corporation, CWC. Jess, Roderick's nickname, was a former boxing promoter and saw the success of the carnivals and the beginning of the NWA. He was approached by a promoter one day to make more money as a wrestling promoter. Roderick eventually collaborated with the NWA. Roderick's son, Vincent James McMahon Sr., took over when Roderick unfortunately passed away in late 1954. After collaborating for a near decade, Muchnick and Vince got into a business dispute. Vince ended the collaboration with the NWA and rebranded CWC as the WWF. On February 21st, 1980, Vince Sr.'s son Vince Jr. and his daughter-in-law, Linda McMahon, started a company in South Yarmouth, Massachusetts called Titan Sports Incorporation with the trademark WWF. The couple's plan was to eventually buy the WWF from Vince Sr. and merge it with the WWF and make it international. This was the start of professional wrestling's golden era. Vince Jr. embarked on a growth strategy by hiring pro wrestlers from other companies in the U.S. In addition, he increased the exposure by getting his wrestlers to star in MTV music videos, movies, and TV shows. On March 31st, 1985, Vince took it up a notch by creating the first pay-per-view, WrestleMania. Now fans could now pay to watch professional wrestling. WrestleMania would become the Super Bowl of professional wrestling, hotly anticipated by its fans each and every year. With this show, Vince got pop culture stars involved with it, increasing the profile of the WWF even more. On March 26, 2001, they bought the competition World Championship Wrestling and Extreme Championship Wrestling just 6 days later. Today, WWE is the most dominant wrestling brand in the world. Not every wrestling company is as popular as the WWE, or at least receives enough media attention. These companies are referred to as the independent circuit. This is the professional wrestling's equivalent to the minor leagues or regional theater. I'd like to now discuss, in my opinion, the most underrated professional wrestling company for the indie level, Millennium Wrestling Federation, MWF. The MWF was founded by two men named Dan Marotti and Neil Malion. In 1998, Dan was only 18 when he joined the WWE as he worked behind the scenes. He left about a year after and thought to himself, how can I make some money off this? Dan has always been a fan of professional wrestling his whole life. In 5 years prior to working with WWE, he worked on live production for indie shows. Not to mention, Dan did take business classes in high school. Dan needed help setting up for the first show, so he allied himself with Neil, and he had his first wrestling show on September 28th, 2001, when he was only 20 years old. The two made the company official in January of 2001 as the MWF. The company was founded, and to this day, in Melrose, Massachusetts, as its stars compete all over the state. The two began using Melrose TV to promote the company, to have interviews with the wrestlers, to have talk shows about wrestling, and to broadcast their matches on local TV. The creation of YouTube was an incredible paradigm shift for the MWF, as they now made their company known worldwide. In 2007, Neil sold his position to John Cena Sr., the father of John Cena Jr., who was one of WWE's most prominent stars. The thing that really makes the MWF unique and successful is the recruiting skills of Dan. He has hired insane high-profile talent from WWE, ECW, TNA, and other wrestling promotions. He has recruited stars such as Paul Bearer, the Iron Sheik, the Sandman, Chris Sabin, and Ox Baker, and many more. He has brought many wrestling legends to small towns where he has had meet and greets with the wrestlers and fans. I asked Dan if I can interview a wrestler involved with the MWF with the question, what are your thoughts on the uniqueness of the MWF pertaining to high-profile wrestlers such as yourself involved with the MWF? Dan approved, and he said he would surprise me with the wrestler of his choice and set us up in a Zoom meeting. That wrestler was the one and only Murray Jannetty. His response to my question was, I think it's an incredible blend of legends and newcomers, and we can all learn a thing or two from each other, as this industry relies on change. Now back to me, Robbie. I remember my first MWF event when I was only 9 years old on April 24th, 2010, where I got front row seats, autographs, pictures, and was even able to speak with wrestlers such as the Boogeyman, the Iron Sheik, Chris Sabin, and Jay Lethal. The company excels at appealing to fans and putting on good wrestling matches. When I was only 17, I met Dan in person as I had an internship at the same TV studio he worked at. From then on, I started working for him on live production, including interviews with famous bodybuilder and professional wrestler Tony Atlas. Professional wrestling is still popular today. It has inspired people to do things they never thought they could do in their life, such as Dan creating an incredible wrestling company, or WWE former superstar Zach Owen being the one and only one-legged wrestler. Pro wrestling has come a long way from being real fights in the carnival to international entertainment. I hope I've inspired my audience to investigate pro wrestling if they aren't already fans. Thank you all for listening. Feel free to leave any questions in the comment section below. Share this with your friends and family. Leave a like or dislike or to subscribe. And remember, please do not try any of those wrestling moves at home.